My presentation is called No Quarter, No Escape, the Unavoidability of Devastation in Firewatch. Does anyone play Firewatch? Awesome. Okay, so we got a few people. So back in October of 2018, I found this article by The Guardian. It was by Jonathan Watts. It was the first time I really read something that really put a clock on climate change. He conveyed that over 6,000 scientific works, the number that's undoubtedly rising, have been published regarding the impending ecological disaster. Drought, flooding, forest fires, coral extinction, ecologically induced poverty. Despite all these obvious threats to our existence, though, it still amazes me how few of these conversations in our lives are dedicated to humanity. Mark Buchanan's Ignoring Climate Change is Only Human responds to these warnings with casual defeatism, marking mass denial as the culprit for our supposedly unavoidable devastation. This sentiment is echoed in the media. Themes of denialism, steadily price, appearing in movies, television, and video games. But there are just as many that treat denialism with the scorn it ought to, and my analysis will revolve around one such example, which is Campo Santo's Firewatch. More specifically, I intend to prove 2 points about the game. First, that the game's plot and literary references act as analogs to the climate denialism mindset. And second, that the interconnected narratological tools of the game, that is the art choices and player decision structures and so on, offer valuable insight on how to resolve that mindset. Both arguments suggest in their own way that video games can provide a great deal of insight and awareness into ecological dilemmas, and that they can be effective forms of activism. Technology's fun. The premise of Firewatch bears strong similarities to climate denial. The player assumes the role of Henry, a recovering alcoholic and husband in a rapidly deteriorating marriage. He chooses to escape to Shoshone National Forest, bordering Yellowstone, as shown here, to become a fire lookout. This decision to simply ignore his problem rather than face it is the foundation upon which all player decisions are made. Indeed, we are a party to Henry's refusal to deal with his life. We follow him as he explores caves, watches sunsets, and worriedly investigates the disappearance of 2 girls for fear that the problem might be pinned on him. One part of his investigation has been following a power line through a canyon, but both the power line and Henry's investigation have something in common. They both lead to a dead end. Much of the way that we put off installing new solar panels or riding that old bike in the garage, Henry avoids larger problems in life by putting them in the back of his mind in favor of smaller distractions. The presence of certain novels in Firewatch also perpetuated the motif of denialism. The most intriguing of those that I found was Bronte's Jane Eyre, a novel rife with images of heat and cold. Jane Eyre's hermit, Rochester, not unlike Henry, places his wife of questionable mental health into an asylum to be forgotten. And yet both women's reappearances are prompted by flames, Rochester's with the house fire, and Henry's after being forced out of the park by a forest fire. Both men refuse to deal with a failed marriage, both seek comfort in isolation, both use women to cope with the harsh realities, and both consistently attempt to lock their problems in the attic. Perhaps a more direct example of climate denialist mindsets comes about midway through the game when a forest fire appears in sight of Henry's watchtower. At this point in the game, Henry has already established a quasi-romantic bond with another fire lookout, Delilah, and has embarked on an investigation into the disappearances of the 2 young girls. The fire is acknowledged, even named, but never treated as a pressing matter until the game's conclusion. It is much like Henry's issues back home, and much like the environmental devastation the world now faces. Present, named, but severely neglected. Henry and Delilah instead share a flirtatious conversation, using the annihilation before their eyes as a romantic backdrop. Meanwhile, Henry is in danger of relapsing into alcoholism, his wife is still devastated by early onset dementia, and his fire is still burned. Firewatch's other storytelling tools offer apparent solutions to Henry's problems, though, and as I will show, the widespread climate denialism threatening our planet as well. One such solution presents itself through Campo Santo's art style and color choices. Namely, Firewatch's Federal Arts Project style, inspired style from the Great Depression. The Federal Art style should be on the left, and the concept art for Firewatch is on the right. So this federal art style inspired style from the Great Depression lays its artistic foundation in a nation eager to relieve itself from the threat of collapse. It is a style grounded in desperation, a search for identity and prosperity in a time of great strife. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of Firewatch's engagement with this style is its suggestive use of warm colors. Most of the game takes place during the evening. Rich oranges, reds, and yellows dominate the player's field of view. It is as if the game were locked in a perpetual sunset. These colors evoke the disappointment of the setting sun, of a day gone by, of possibility lost, opportunity lost. Henry wanders Shoshone, hiding in his tower, questioning how he could possibly deal with the challenges he faces, but staring him and the player in the face as the sun sets, wise and ancient message to our primal minds. Go home. Stop exploring before the night, in all its darkness, takes you. The narrative decision-making structure of Firewatch also supports this push for action. Throughout the game, the player is prompted to make multiple dialogue choices for Henry to vocalize, or they can choose silence. Choosing one option, like one of these here, prevents access to the rest. While player decisions can have slight impacts on how Delilah speaks to Henry, and slight alterations to the environment of the game, no dialogue choices will ever affect the outcome of Firewatch. Henry always meets Delilah, the fire always starts, and that same fire always grows out of control and swallows Henry's corner of Shoshone. The only truly divergent decision available to the player is at the end of the game when he decides whether to stay in the park and die in the fire or evacuate on a helicopter. The binary nature of these decisions and of these resolutions to Henry's problems is hinted at by the name of Henry's tower, Q-Force. This type of decision structure is common in linear games, but the abundance of small decisions paired with the absence of large ones reinforces the idea that Henry's escapist behaviors are of little consequence to the broader issues in front of him. The same is true of the player and society at large. It is not a coincidence that a game about inaction is set against the backdrop of environmental devastation. Campo Santo's decision to use a lush forest under threat was not ornamental. Delilah initially asserts that the fire is normal and that it would be briefly extinguished. It then grows out of control and forces both lookouts out of the forest. This kind of safe thinking and over-reliance on authority to resolve environmental threats is easily the most potent analog in criticism Firewatch offers toward the climate denialist mindset. It is for that reason, and because the narrative offers an empathetic link to someone dealing with overwhelming threat of devastation, that the game stands as a subtle yet powerful form of activism. There is a phrase shared amongst most of the criticism surrounding Firewatch. It is a game about problems and how we deal with them. Through Henry, we experience firsthand the overwhelming presence of a dire situation. We experience the compulsion to distract ourselves with problems of minor importance. We place the problems of nature secondary to our own. But like Henry, we will have to face the impending ecological fire of ours. Firewatch thus offers two forks in our own looming devastation. Try and put out those fires or be swallowed. Thank you.